Hello everyone and welcome to Cloud Engineering Projects. In today's episode of Cloud Engineering Projects, I'm going to be demonstrating how to provision a virtual machine. So the question is, why virtual machine? Well, the answer is, why not virtual machine? Virtual machine is a very important fundamental of cloud engineering. So in this project tutorial, I will be showing you how to create a virtual machine using Azure Portal. As this YouTube channel is specifically for project development, if you are unfamiliar with the concept of virtual machine, I encourage you to take the Azure Fundamental AZ900 course. It will give you a comprehensive understanding of what a virtual machine is. So let's quickly get started. But before we get started with provisioning a virtual machine, let's quickly talk about some important components that all come together when you create a virtual machine. So we have the operating system, which is essentially what dictates the operability of your virtual machine. Then we have the virtual network, aka the VNet. This is the component that allows for traffic communication. Then we have the subnet. We have the network interface card, aka NIC. We also have the network security group. All of these components are all part of the fundamentals of cloud. So if you are not familiar with any or all of these components, please refer to the fundamentals of cloud engineering by taking the AZ900 course on Pluralsight or the AWS Cloud Practitioner course. Then again, we have the IP address, which is another very important component of the virtual machine and even the cloud. Another essential component of the virtual machine are the storage and the memory. These are important components, especially when we start to mention topics like system capacity of a virtual machine. So all of these are what come together when you create a virtual machine. So as we've seen the components that all come together to make a virtual machine, let's quickly head on to Azure Portal to create one. So to create a virtual machine, you need to open the browser of your choice and then go on to portal.azure.com. If you don't have this interface or you don't have account, the first thing will be for you to quickly create an account and then get started from there. So after you've created an account, the next thing for you to do will be to come to this big search bar or search field here in the top middle of the screen, right? And then search for virtual machine. Right? And then under services, you will see virtual machines here. Okay. So I'll just click on virtual machines here. And as you can see here, I do not have any virtual machines created within my Azure subscription. So the next thing that you will need to do will be to either click on this create button in the middle of the screen, or you come to the top left corner of the screen to click this create button. Whichever of these two buttons you click will lead you to the same page. So if I click on this also, you see I've got the same options, right? So I'll come here and then I'll click on Azure Virtual Machine. So clicking on that Azure Virtual Machine button will land me to this page where I am required to provide necessary information for the creation of my virtual machine. So the first thing that I will point out is that if you look at these top options here, top bars, then you see basics, you see disks, networking, management, monitoring, advanced, tags, review, plus create. So we will be navigating through each of these to provide the necessary information that is required to create a virtual machine. So the first one here is saying that I should provide the subscription where I want to create my virtual machine in. I've only got one subscription, which is Bioku subscription, so I will select that. Then the next field that I need to fill is the resource group field. So a resource group is a collection of resources that share the same lifecycle permission and policies, right? What this means is that a resource group is like a container where all the resources that you put into it will share the same lifecycle. So this means that if you delete a resource group, all of the resources inside that resource group also gets automatically deleted. Okay, so I've got a very few options here to either create a new resource group or choose from existing resource group. As you can see, I've only got 4 resource groups here that I've created in the past for a completely different projects, right? But for the purpose of this video, I am going to be creating a new resource group. So I click on that create new button, and then I'll provide a random name for this resource group, rg underscore VM creation, right? Because this resource group is basically for virtual machine. I'm going to be deleting it after this tutorial, so I won't put too much of effort into the naming. So I'll click OK here. Progressing on the list of fields that I need to fill, here I've got the virtual machine name. So what this is the display name of the virtual machine within Azure. So I'll just come here and say that, what should I call it? I'll just call it YouTube-VM, okay? So I have the display name of my virtual machine to be YouTube virtual machine, and then I'll proceed. The next one is the region. So technically it is where you want your virtual machine to reside. So the next option here is availability zone, right? If you don't know what an availability zone is, again, I am encouraging you to quickly catch up with the AZ900 Azure Fundamental course. Then I'll scroll to the important ones, which is image, right? So what image means, if you remember, a few minutes ago, I mentioned something about operating system. So this is where you select the operating system, right? And here we've got quite a huge number of operating systems, right? We've got the Ubuntu Server 24, long-time support. We've got Windows 2022 data centers. We've got Windows Server 2016 data center. We've got Windows 11 Pro, Windows 10 Pro, and there are quite a few other options here. If I click on this, see all images, I'll see quite a lot of other images that I can select from, right? For the purpose of this tutorial, I am only going to be selecting the Windows 10 Pro. I've got some errors here saying failed to load the marketplace. I will ignore this until I'm unable to create the virtual machine. So this should not mean anything whatsoever. Okay. Then the next thing that I'm going to do will be to select the size of the virtual machine. So I'll drop down here and I'll select the size of the virtual machine that befits my requirements. So whatever option you choose here will have a significant impact on the total cost that you'll be spending on provisioning this virtual machine. So if I click on this 2 CPUs and 8 gigabytes of memory, and I come to this left-hand side of my screen, then you will see that this virtual machine, if I create it this way, is going to cost me $84.68 per month. And I'll just quickly move this one to this side. And the estimated cost per month will be $91.07. So I'll just drag this back to its original position. So the next thing that I am required to fill here is the username of the virtual machine. So I'll just provide some random name by saying, I'll just say VM dash test, and it requires me to provide a password. So I'm only going to be providing a password there, and then I'll confirm my password here. So I've provided the username and the password. Then the next thing is public inbound ports. This is essentially asking if I want to allow public access into this virtual machine. So if I don't want to allow public access to this virtual machine, I'll just select no. But I do want to allow public access into it because I will need to connect to this virtual machine immediately after creation, okay? I'll select the allow selected ports. Then I need to select the ports that I'll be allowing connection through it to the virtual machine. So I'll just drop down here and I will choose RDP. Because this is a Windows virtual machine, I am only going to be selecting RDP, but I can also select SSH if I want. So that will be, I'll be accessing my virtual machine through the terminal. So as I've selected RDP, I'll click outside of here. And you can see here, this is providing some warning. This will allow all IP addresses to access your virtual machine. Again, because this is a test virtual machine, I'll keep it simple and sweet and not provide some other complicated configuration. Okay, so the next thing that I need to select will be the license type. So I'll drop down here and I'll click on Windows clients. Then I'll agree to the client here. So I have now filled up this first page, which is coming from the basics. Then I'll go to the next one, to the disks, right? And then on this disk, I've got some few options also to fill. It's asking me the disk size, so I'll drop down here and then I'll be able to select the storage capacity that I want my virtual machine to have. I want to be very generous, so I'll just keep it as 256 gigabytes. The next field will be the operating system disk type. So I'll drop down here and you'll see quite a few options here also. So I'll just select one random. This one is also fine. Premium SSD locally redundant storage. If you don't know what all these redundancy options are, again, the Azure AZ900 is your best bet to catch up with all this information. Okay. So key management, I'll keep this as platform managed. I'll keep all of these things as they are. And then I'll go to networking. So on the networking page, remember I have mentioned something about virtual network. Okay. So this is where you set your virtual network. If I want, I can click on this create new, and then I'll be able to set all the properties of the virtual network myself. But yeah, that is an overcall. I'll just click on discard here and I will leverage on Microsoft to create an automatic virtual network for me, right? Then I'll come to subnet here. I'll leave it as it is for Microsoft to also create a subnet for me. This is also public IP address. I will also not do anything here. I will leave Microsoft to it to do everything for me automatically, but I've also got the option to create new. Then I also mentioned something about network interface card. This is where you've got the option to choose the type of network interface card that you will be using. If I want, I'll click advanced, but yeah, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll just keep it as basic. Then again, this public inbound port is coming again under networking because, yeah, networking is what defines the communication of the virtual machine. So I'll keep it as it is, allow selected port, which is the RDP. So RDP is remote desktop protocol and it is opened on the port 3389. Okay. Then we've got this option here, which is asking what we want to do to the IP address when the VM is deleted. I want to delete the IP address. I don't want to incur anything whatsoever on the IP address or other components that I'm creating. So I'll select delete the IP address when I delete the virtual machine. Okay. Enable accelerated networking. If I hover on this, you see enable low latency and high throughput. So this also has to do with how you get information into and out of the virtual machine, how fast you get information into and out of the virtual machine. So I need something very fast, so I'll select this one for low latency and high throughput. Then you've also got the load balancing option. I'm not going to be doing any configuration for the load balancing, so I'll keep that as it is. Then if I scroll back up, I've got this management section here also. But again, I'm not going to be doing anything here on the management section. I'll go to monitoring, nothing for me to do here. Go to advanced, basically nothing. I'll go to tag. I don't want to do anything also on the tag because, yeah, these are optionals. So what I would do next is click on this review plus create. What that does is that it checks all the configurations that I have done, whether all the inputs are correct. And then as you can see, it's saying that yes, validation passed. So all the information that we've provided are correct. So Microsoft is very, very open in how they charge their customers. And as you can see here, I am going to be spending 0.1160 US dollar per hour if I create this virtual machine. That is not too expensive. I don't think I'm going to be spending up to that, in fact, because this virtual machine is not going to be up and running for up to 1 hour. So that's completely fine. If I keep this virtual machine to run for 30 days, I am going to be incurring total estimate of $102.18. Okay, so the next thing I'll do will be just click on this create button. This is probably going to take some time. I am going to pause this video now and then come back to it when this virtual machine is finally provisioned. So this virtual machine has now finished provisioning, right? And then I will click on this go to resource for me to go onto the virtual machine interface or the overview page. And yeah, this is our virtual machine. What you are seeing in front of me is your virtual machine that we have just created. So how do we access the virtual machine? As you can see here, the virtual machine is still doing some configuration underground and it's saying that the status is not ready. Okay, so I'll give you some more minutes for the status of the virtual machine to be ready. And after the virtual machine is ready, I will come back to it and then we'll connect to the virtual machine and you'll see how to use it. Okay, finally the virtual machine is ready for use. So the next thing is to connect to the virtual machine. And on the overview page, you can see this giant button here saying connect. So I'll drop down on this button and then click connect. As you can see, this is the public IP address of the machine. So this gets automatically created, right? So to connect to the virtual machine, I will come here and download the RDP file. So I'll put it in the cloud engineering project folder. Okay, so that's now downloaded. Then I will open the folder and this is the RDP file that I've just downloaded. So this file here is essentially our virtual machine. The virtual machine that we've created in Azure, this is it here. Okay, so I will double click on this virtual machine and then next I will click on connect. And then it's asking for the password, the same password that I set when creating this virtual machine. So I will input the password here and then I will click connect or OK. Then I will click on yes. And there you go, voila, this is our virtual machine. It is essentially a computer, okay? So I will allow it to finish its processing to do some other configurations, and then we will quickly just do some basic things on the virtual machine before we end this tutorial. You see, this is the virtual machine that we have created. So this virtual machine is created inside of Azure Cloud. So I'll just click accept here and it's doing some other configuration. It's telling me to wait just a minute. And voila, this is the machine. Okay, so it's asking if I want to allow my PC to be discoverable by other PCs. No, I don't want to do that. I'll just click no. Then I can do anything I want on this virtual machine. Open the Edge browser, then click on continue, and then I can browse. Maybe I'll say I don't want to synchronize any data. Continue. No, I don't want to sign into Google. Then confirm and start browsing. Then I can just say google.com here. And then that's it. I am now using the virtual machine that we created in the cloud to access the internet. So this is it, guys. We have created a virtual machine. And yes, anything that you can do on your local machine, right, you can do it also on this virtual machine. It is essentially a computer that is sitting somewhere in the cloud.